Geostorm, directed by Dean Devlin, this being his directorial debut. He wrote and produced a lot of the big 90s disaster movies like Independence Day and 1998's Godzilla, as well as he was the writer and producer of Stargate as well. This film has been delayed by quite a bit. It was supposed to come out in 2015, I think, maybe I'm wrong, but down to very poor test audience reactions. It had $15 million worth of reshoots, which were directed by a Danny Cannon. You might know Danny Cannon. He directed 1995's Judge Dredd. So the plot. So after extreme weather wreaks havoc upon the Earth, world leaders get together to create a network of satellites which help control the global climate and keep everyone safe. But something goes wrong. Of course it does. And this system, this network of satellites that's been created to help protect us against extreme weather conditions and help control the global climate, it starts attacking Earth instead. It starts using the weather to attack us. So it's up to Jake Lawson then, played by Gerard Butler, who helped build the system, and his younger brother, Max Lawson, who just happens to work in the White House. Yeah, really. Okay, that's the type of film this is. To race against the clock and try to uncover and stop the real threat before the system that was built to protect us from the weather ends up destroying humanity instead. Now, if you take away all of the shit that's in this movie, and there's a lot of it, this actually has quite an interesting premise. You know, this movie had the potential of being at least decent. It raises issues like global warming. You've got the sort of political interests involved there, and you've got deep messages as well, really, about the world uniting as one, and that we, and I kind of like that as well. But all of that is lost in what is an absolute disaster of a film. A mess of a film. The script is terrible. It's dire. It's full of cliches. It's very dumb. Performances were okay. Everyone seemed to be really, really trying, as if they really cared for this material that they were working off. And it was like, everyone really performances were okay, but they really, really cared for this material, or at least that's how it looked. I kind of like Gerard Butler's character. Some of the dialogue really, especially some of the dialogue that Gerard delivers really made me cringe. But that's the same throughout the film. The dialogue is just very, very cringy, and it is full of dull characters and annoying characters and unlikable characters. The only character I did kind of like was Gerard Butler's, and I think that was just because it was Gerard Butler. So yeah, dull characters, just not really that interesting. And you can see they are really trying, but I think down to, poor writing, a poor script, it just didn't work, and I just didn't buy into any of the characters. Geostorm felt like a long-lost movie from the mid to late 90s, and a very, very bad one. It's like almost as if someone made the film, was embarrassed to release it because how bad it was, so they put it back on the shelf. Fast forward 20 years later, studio needs a little bit of money, an extra bit of money, and it's like, well, global warming's a bit of an issue at the moment, and it's an ever-growing issue, and we released that very bad film from 20 years ago that we never released. So yeah, that's how I felt while watching this film. And this movie just felt very there was nothing really special about it or anything that stood out. Like, this is Dean Devlin's directorial debut, and there was nothing with this film that sort of stood out to me and said, oh, this is going to be Dean Devlin's distinct sort of shooting style, or, there was nothing to say, look, this is going to be Dean Devlin's look and style of filmmaking. There was nothing like that. For example, David Fincher, when you're watching a David Fincher film, because he's got a distinct look about his films and about the way he makes his movies. He's got a distinct look, and when you're watching a David Fincher film. But there was nothing in this, for me, that really stood out like that. It was a very bland and dull experience overall. The overall movie just felt very uninspired and was just like a mishmash of other disaster movies from the past, like Independence Day and The Day After Tomorrow and what's that other one now, 2000 and something. It was just like, yeah, it was just like a mishmash of all of those disaster movies. I mean, we've even got a dog in here. The film sort of focuses on a dog that survives all of this. And it's like, that's just, for me, that was Independence Day. But it's like, why? So yeah, it was very bland and very dull overall. The entire experience was. And like, when it comes to the way the film was made and crafted, again, it was just very flat. This entire movie felt very flat, and there was just nothing really memorable about it, even when it comes to the actual disaster scenes. And probably the best thing about this movie was actually the special effects. They were okay, but nothing amazing, or nothing stood out about them. If anything, a lot of the effects in this movie lacked weight. They were just okay. And when you've got like, there's a scene in Hong Kong, and it's pure destruction, and you've got the tower blocks like dominoes just falling into each other, and even though it looked okay, it sort of lacked any weight. It just happened. Everything just happened. Tell you what I did like, mine, which did impress me, was the effects in Dubai. I believe it was in Dubai, and you've got that massive wave going into the city. And I was quite impressed by the water effects while it was going through the city. That was about it, really, when it comes to the special effects. Oh, and one thing I didn't like is when everything starts kicking off. So, for example, the scene would start and you'd see a wave forming, and the wave is coming into the city, and it quickly builds up the momentum and the tension, and all of a sudden, it just cuts and takes you away from that scene, and it throws you back into the very dull drama that's going on in between all of the chaos. And it was like, oh. But yeah, in that third act, when things eventually start kicking off, I was sort of mildly entertained by it. But just very, very mildly. Badly written characters, they dull and just not interesting, a terrible script, and every cliche under the sun. Okay special effects, but nothing great or groundbreaking. And for me, this film really fails to deliver a promising and interesting and thought-provoking premise. Like, it raises issues of global warming. There's even a deep underlying message of the world uniting as one, because otherwise we're not going to survive. The movie starts with our message, it finishes with our message, but it loses it all. It loses our message throughout the rest of the film. Everything in between all of that is just one giant mess. Like, this movie is just a giant disaster itself. So yeah, for me, Geostorm was a missed opportunity. It could have been a lot more. It could have been smarter. It could have been more interesting. It was just a giant mess. It was more of a mishmash of 90s disaster movies. And it had every cliche under the sun. It was just nothing really special about it. It was a very dull, bland experience. So yeah, purely because everyone really tried. Performance-wise, you could see people were really trying. They really cared. Well, they looked like they cared anyway. And you have got some decent special effects in this film. That is why I'm not going to be giving this an F. It's not quite as tragic as an F grade, but it's pretty darn close. And because I was mildly entertained during the third act, I'll be giving Geostorm a D. Have you guys seen Geostorm? Let me know below. What do you think of it? Maybe some of you loved it, or maybe some of you really hated it. Let me know below. I'd love to know. And again, thank you so much for watching. I really do appreciate it. And if you like what you see and you share the same passions as me, then why not hit subscribe?